Hi there and welcome back to part 2 of the cooking demonstration that I did with Ollie from Coombe Grove a few weeks ago. If you missed part 1, I'll link it down in the description box for you, where we looked at brunch recipes and lots of Ollie's tips for food combining and creating healthy meals. In this one, we're going to be looking at something that you can do for lunch. We're going to be talking about vegetables and carb swaps, and he's also going to be cooking us a dinner. So sit back, enjoy, and I'll put all the details down in the description box for you.
I love my cauliflower rice now. I thought I wouldn't be able to give up pasta and rice, but since I started having cauliflower rice, I haven't missed it at all. You can't really.
It's surprisingly good, isn't it? It's surprisingly good, and it really fills you up. Somebody said to me, "Oh, what about the B vitamins you get in rice?" Cauliflower, beautifully rich in B vitamins, so couldn't be a better swap, really. So carb swaps, for anybody who doesn't know, is finding alternatives to your usual starchy carbs, normally utilising vegetables. That are much lower in carbohydrates. So one of our favourites is a celeriac, which looks like this. It actually only contains 2.3 grams of carbs per 100 grams.
This is one of my favourites.
Yeah, it's got a lovely.
This is my potato alternative.
Yeah, brilliant. It's got a lovely sort of fragrant aroma to it that I really enjoy. And if you compare it, for instance, to making mashed potato, one portion of this would be 30 grams less of carbs.
Wow. So it's a big difference.
So it's a really big difference, yeah. So to make this, what I'm going to do this this is so bringing in our technology, enabling us to sort of do things quickly, in a decent sized volume so that we've got some bulk food as well. I'm going to dice up the celeriac. Now, quite often people say to me they struggle with peeling this, prepping this. It's the hardest thing for them. So I would top and tail it, and if you do struggle, cut it in half first. Okay. Suddenly that makes it really manageable.
It's having the right equipment though, isn't it? Because you do need a good sharp knife, don't you?
You do need a good sharp knife, yeah. Sometimes people are a bit scared of sharp knives.
Yes.
But from my experience is that blunt knives actually cause more dangerous because you have to push hard. So that's just peeling it with a knife. But you could just use a nice broad, what I call a de-peeler. This is actually Oxo brand, and you just have to get a little bit more involved with that.
That's where you get your workout as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keeping you busy. And do you know what? When you're cooking, when you're doing this kind of thing, you can do it mindfully as well. You know, mindset being such an important part of one of the things that we do at Coombe Grove, one of our roots. And is it that you pop the radio on? It's an interesting programme. I personally really like listening to Radio 4 when I cook. I think there's some fascinating stuff in there. But it's also looking at what you're doing, really engaging. And now as soon as I've peeled that, you get that beautiful, that absolutely beautiful smell, don't you?
Do you know, I love making my brunch in the morning. It's almost my favourite part of the day, because preparing it and getting it all ready and making it look nice and then enjoying eating it, rather than thinking, I've got to rush and I'm going to do this quickly and then get on to the next thing. I just really enjoy now preparing my food and enjoy eating it as well.
Yeah. And do you cook in bulk as well?
I don't really, and it's something that I would like to do more of. So tips on, having things like you said about the chia compote, having that ready in the fridge that you can use in different ways. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and if you've got the time to cook fresh, then great.
I do cook, I do quite often do a whole load of steamed vegetables at once and keep those in the fridge, and then I just warm them up when I want to use them.
And is that something that you picked up from what we were doing?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's just roughly dicing the celeriac into big chunks. Okay. It goes into this steamer. You could, if you don't have a slow cooker or a pressure cooker, you could just pop this in a big pan like you would make normal potato mash.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we were talking about food combining, weren't we?
Yes.
So, and this is how we also add in flavour. So you could just boil this or steam this, mash it with your standard masher, bit of salt and pepper and some butter, and you've got just really nice, simple, low-carb mash.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is, first of all, I need to put some water in my pressure cooker. So I'm just going to put 200 ml. And I like to use hot water because it just means that everything happens a bit quicker.
Yes.
My diced celeriac's going in there. Now, what I'm going to do with this is, so I'm going to add a bit of leek in there. Again, it doesn't have to be that refinely cut because it's going to go and get steamed and mashed. We're going to add a tin of beans.
Okay.
Yeah. Now this could be any kind of, these are cannellini beans. I have to admit I just went with what was in the kitchen larder at the time. It could be black beans, it could be kidney beans, it could be any kind of beans. And we know that beans, yes, they contain carbs, but they also contain protein, right? So I've drained that already.
Yeah, beans weren't something that I ate a lot before I came here, and now I eat them again.
It's a great way of kind of balancing up
Yes.
other food, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bringing another form of protein and another form of vegetable into your diet. Now, going back to our utilising our nuts and seeds again, you see, I'm just going to pull some of those together and put a couple of handfuls in like that. Okay, that's going to go into my pressure cooker. On goes the lid. So we've got fat in there from the nuts and the seeds.
Yeah.
Okay, the beans have got some protein, they've got some carbs in. The celeriac itself is full of a good fibre. It's got those minerals and vitamins in, again, that we're looking for. And, you know, low carb can tend to avoid the under the ground food because it tends to be higher in carbs.
Yes.
And starches, and that's the beauty about the celeriac. It sort of goes half above and half below, but it's got sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, manganese, zinc, copper, iron, and it's also got the A, K, C and B range of vitamins. So if you're going to have this wonder vegetable for a low carb diet, then I could really love to encourage you to try it. Press start, it's on, and hopefully within about 15-20 minutes that'll be ready to mash.
Brilliant.
While that's going, we'll talk about a few other things.
Okay.
Did you say that you really enjoy doing cauliflower rice?
Yes, I do. I use cauliflower rice a lot.
And have you tried flavouring it with other things as well?
I haven't really. I mean, we quite often have it with something like a curry, or the other day I did it as a base of a chicken dish, which I baked in the oven.
Nice, nice. That sounds lovely. Roasted cauliflower?
Yeah, I haven't done roasted cauliflower.
Yep.
Another dish I do use it for is instead of doing a fish pie with a potato mash top, I put cauliflower florets on the top and then cover that with my cheese, and it's delicious.
Yes. There's something
really
about
nice.
cheese and cauliflower that
Yes.
goes so well together.
Yes.
Something actually, you just reminded me of something we've started doing at home because we're really focusing on low carb at the moment. I mean, I've been following low carb for about 2 years, but we're really trying to implement it at home. We've just started making a bulk batch of cheese sauce. So we've got a mixture of vegetables and proteins. Put some cheese sauce on top of that, and it tastes fabulous every time. I'm not going to do cauli rice today, but I think it is a great way to as an alternative to rice. And when you're doing your cauli rice, try giving it a bit of spice.
Okay.
Add some turmeric in there, add a bit of ginger or chilli or what have you, as you're stirring. And of course you get this beautiful golden cauli rice instead. And if you're doing that, aromatic and fragrant, if you're doing that with a curry dish, it could balance it out really well.
Really nice.
Another alternative that I'd like to show you then is making courgetti.
Yes,
or spaghetti
for
spaghetti
those who
out of
want to
courgette.
eat pasta.
Exactly.
Now this looks like a good gadget,
Yeah,
Ollie.
this is a good gadget. And I have to say that this particular bake is particularly good. One of the things I really like about it is it's got this suction pump on the bottom. And when you lock that in,
it doesn't move.
it's going nowhere.
Okay.
Okay. Now, various different blades. This particular kit is a 5-blade kit. You can get a 10-blade kit. And essentially, it's kind of like a glorified grater.
Yeah.
But it will slice, it will ribbon, it will do all sorts of different things.
So you can do your salads with it as well.
You can do your
exactly. Slaws and things like that.
You've got it.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And what you can also do is, use lots of other vegetables. So, for instance, there's a blade on here for spiralizing hollow vegetables.
Okay.
So, if one of the things that we do at home, for instance, we might use some butternut squash, which is a bit higher in carbs, so not as much. Courgette, peppers, cabbage, various different vegetables. You can actually do onions with it as well. There's a blade for layered vegetables. And you can spiralize that all through coat it in a lovely marinated oil, maybe it's a spice oil, and you just really quickly toss it through your wok. And you've got this amazing kind of noodly mixture of vegetables and ribbons of lots of different colours.
So you could make a stir fry with
You
that.
can make a
with some
stir
protein.
fry. Exactly. But if we just think spaghetti for a minute, okay, so the courgette goes on there like that, and it gets really firmly pushed on like that, and all being well, we're going to get some, there we go, and here it comes, and it's really, really
Wow.
that simple.
That's brilliant.
Okay? And you can just see that's coming out like that. And I think what's also nice about this is it looks attractive.
Yes, it does.
We do eat with our eyes. When we've been cooking, the smells have been coming to us as we've been preparing. And you just, I can smell a little bit of freshness going on now. So, how quick was that?
Yeah.
And it's a very easy bit of kit to wash and clean as well.
And with that one courgette, you've actually got quite a lot there, haven't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's it. It's really, really simple.
Brilliant.
You could do this with squash, with peppers, with all sorts of different types of vegetables, and it will cut them thick and thin and sliced and layered. To really make a variety. That could go into a salad, that could go into a stir fry.
Yeah.
Lots of ideas. So now that that's ready, I'm going to put that to the side. Just remove this, and we're going to make some pesto.
Even just some of those herb oils. So if I had for my brunch scrambled eggs and a little bit of maybe rocket, avocado, something like that, then putting one of those herb oils over it just adds that extra flavour to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. One of the things I really love to do is you just use extra virgin olive oil, and you could just put in ginger, lemongrass, and chilli.
Lovely.
You just blend that up, blends together, and then I might put that in a jar with lots of pieces of diced halloumi, and I'll leave it in the fridge for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll take that out and I'll grill that. That can stay in my fridge for weeks because it's surrounded in the oil. And quite often people say to me, how do I cook tofu? How do I cook tempeh? They know it's high in protein, and they want to utilise it. How do I make that tasty?
Yeah.
And that would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do now is pesto, and again, this will make enough pesto to keep in your fridge in a pot for several days.
Brilliant.
There can't be anything nicer than some freshly sliced tomatoes, some buffalo mozzarella,
Oh, lovely.
coated in a bit of pesto, right? As a salad.
Yeah.
So pesto.
So you could do, again, you were saying about having things ready in the fridge. You could have your pesto in a jar, and you could have that on a chicken breast or something like that as well, couldn't you?
Well, 100%. So, for instance, I'm just going to put some ingredients here. We were trying to get some fresh chilies in the kitchen today, but unfortunately we couldn't get any, so I've just brought some crushed ones.
Okay.
I've got some lemongrass kicking around, some ginger kicking around, and some fresh coriander, for instance.
I love coriander.
Now, imagine just blitzing those things together with a bit of garlic. Exactly, you could brush your chicken breast before it goes in the oven. You could marinate fish with that. And again, saying I often store my halloumi and everything else in a jar full of marinade, and it soaks up that flavour.
And I think what you were saying, I mean, I don't eat tofu, but I think one of the things that people can say about it is how bland it is. So having these kind of oils where you can add some flavour to it.
Exactly. And you can come back and use that oil again and again. You can drizzle it around the salad. It just smells great, doesn't it?
It's the basil I can smell.
This is the pesto. Well. This is the pesto. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a small bunch of. You don't have to have any major kind of recipe for this, and that's probably easy for me to say because I'm a chef, right? And I just throw things together. But a small bunch of basil. We're going to use about 50 grams of nuts. Now, traditionally that would be pine nuts. And you might warm them up on the stove, open up that oil a bit. About 100 grams of cheese.
Okay.
And blitz that all together. And you've got pesto.
Yeah.
I would say, hey, pesto. Right. But coming back to why do something more than once, and when we look at the mineral content, and the health benefits of those mixed nuts and seeds, why not just use the mixed nuts and seeds that we've already cooked? Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to find my cheese. There's my cheese. And now, again, traditionally this would be Parmesan.
Yes.
Okay, but at Coombe Grove we really like to champion local suppliers. Yeah. So I've got some pitchfork cheddar here. Okay, which I did actually try this. Not that long ago, and it tasted amazing. So it doesn't have to be the Parmesan, it could just be any kind of cheese really, but I would always suggest moving towards a harder cheese for this. Okay. Now, if we go and get some nuts and seeds, just, and remember we've got almonds, pumpkin seeds, pistachios, flaxseed in there, so we're getting a really lovely full range of benefits. A little pinch of salt. The cheese, let's be honest, it has some salt in it. And we're just going to blitz this up quickly. And hey, pesto.
Wow.
Now if you wanted that a little bit softer, I might just put in a tiny bit of olive oil, just to loosen it up. Okay. And if it's a good quality olive oil, of course, you've got that extra fragrance. We know it's really rich in monounsaturated fats as well. It's really good for your health. And there it is. It does smell great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
really nice.
Just going to find myself one of my little forks. And there's nothing stopping you from just, still quite thick actually, a bit thicker than normal. That's okay. And then you just massage that in to your courgette like this. Just toss it through. Just coating that courgette. Now you could add a little bit of lemon juice with this. And actually, interestingly, sort of the oils and everything else inside pesto just sort of has an interaction with the courgette itself, giving it a slightly softer texture. And I'm just going to go and wash my hands and find you a fork to give that a try if you like. Yeah. We've now got a beautiful, beautiful pot of pesto. It could be a coriander spiced oil. Stays in your fridge. Use it when you want to. It's there to access. We saw how quick it was to make some, spiralized courgette. Now probably I might want to chop it up a little bit for you if it's a bit long. Apart from that, there you go.
We'll just
give it a try.
That's amazing.
It's great, isn't it? Just so simple, simple cooking, great flavour.
Delicious.
Let's look at a bit of protein.
Okay.
Now, what I'm just going to do is, it's really, really simple. This is called a green pan. I love green pans because they're ceramic lined. They're really ecologically friendly. They haven't got this unhealthy non-stick going on. You can pretty much cook anything in these pans without any oil,
Okay.
which is really useful because quite often not everybody wants to be heating oil up all of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we were to look at bringing in some protein for our food, for our courgetti and our celeriac mash, then one of my favourite things to do is always go with fish.
Okay. And a balance between, if you're putting your plate together, that balance between how much protein, how much carb and how much fat.
Yeah, that's a really good question. At Coombe Grove, we're advocating low carb.
Yes.
Low carb doesn't mean no carb, because some vegetables will contain carbs.
Yeah.
I mean, courgette has one of the lowest levels of carbs at no more than about 3 grams per 100 grams. Whereas something like squash is closer to like 10 grams, okay? Whereas your potatoes are up in the 30s, and your rice is 20 plus, you see. So anything that's sort of 10 grams or under is really useful. And what we want to be doing is, we think of it in terms of abundance, in moderation, and as a minimise. Okay? So all your low carb veg, we say eat in abundance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to measure those.
You don't have to measure that. If it's bright, if it's colourful, it's fresh, it's full of vitamins and minerals, and it's low carb, we recommend you eat those in abundance. So on a plate of food, that might be making up like half of that plate of food. Okay. Now we do recommend that you try and have a good portion of healthy protein and healthy fat with every meal.
Because fat isn't always the enemy, is it?
Fat is not the enemy at all. The only fat that's the enemy is the processed fats.
Yeah.
Okay, and the highly manufactured seed oils. Your body needs such a range of different types of fats, so many different essential functions in the body. Yeah. And that's why we sort of recommend aiming for real whole food, because your body will identify what it needs, it'll take it up into the body and it can use it. Now, fish is a great source of omega-3 fatty fish, but if you were looking at protein, now 30 to 40 grams of protein is a good portion per meal.
Okay.
And if you're on low carb, you probably want to be looking to try and get that 2 to 3 times a day.
Okay.
So we're looking at 60, 80, 90 kind of grams of protein a day. Now, what does that mean to anybody?
Yeah.
It's really difficult to understand. So I quite like to talk about it as if we are looking at a fillet of chicken. Now, a 100-gram fillet of chicken, which is a small fillet of chicken, is 30 grams of protein.
Okay.
So if we imagine the palm of my hand, and you imagine that fillet of chicken on the palm, if we're talking about meat proteins, you really want your protein, if it's coming from animal sources or fish sources, to be the size of the palm of your hand or a little bit larger. Okay, so if that was a portion of fish, you might want it to be the whole of the palm of your hand. If it was coming from, say, a nice piece of steak, a piece of pork, you could imagine it to be about that large. Okay.
Because I look at that and I think that's actually quite a big piece of fish.
That is a big piece of fish, because I'm going to chop that in half.
Okay.
And put some with the courgette and some with the other dish. But if we were to look at that piece of fish, for a realistic portion in terms of protein, just going to cut that down, you'd want to be looking at somewhere about that. It's a nice thick piece of fish. This is actually from somewhere called Loch in Scotland, one of the only places to really sustainably and organically farm fish. And if we look at that piece of fish in the size of the palm of my hand, you can see where I'm coming.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you're eating 2 meals a day, then again, you want to be really prioritising your portion of protein to be about that large.
So I have brunch and I have my dinner.
Yeah.
I tend to have 2 eggs. I have some Greek yogurt and some nuts, so that's my protein in the morning. And then in the evening, I would probably have something like that, or a piece of chicken. Or...
That sounds good.
Okay.
And if some of those little healthy snacks that we're having are also protein focused and based, then you're sort of just topping up those levels of protein.
Right.
In terms of fats is quite difficult to measure. But when you're running a low carb diet, 40, 60 grams of fat in the diet a day usually seems to be about right. Now, what does that mean? That would be 2 small handfuls of mixed nuts as snacks, maybe a couple of sticks of cheese. I like to think of 2 fingers of cheese is a portion. You would have a portion of oily fish, say, like mackerel or salmon, and maybe you've had a salad where you've incorporated some other cheese in there, some nuts and seeds in there, but then of course the all-important olive oil, which you've turned into a vinaigrette, and you've coated your salad really nicely, and therefore giving your body all of those different fats that you hereafter. Now, we're also not adverse to butter.
Yes, and I do cook with butter.
And butter, you know, the French have got it right, okay, in the fact that if you cook something with butter, it tastes fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do with this salmon is I'm just going to heat the pan up. Because it's a good quality pan, I'm actually just going to lay the skin on there dry.
Okay.
I don't really like overheating oil. It's actually quite hard to get an oil to a smoke point, but it's the cheap oils that do the damage. And cooking them and heating them up can be problematic for some people. So this is that's my pressure cooker telling me that we're
going to blow.
we're pretty much there. So I'll speed this up for a minute. Just going to get that nice and hot. Okay, that skin's going to go on there. So just a point here is that if I was at home, I might just pop this in a tray, skin up, and just pop it under the grill or in the oven.
Okay.
And just cook it for 20 minutes.
Okay.
I might put some marinades on there, I might use some of those herb oils that we talked about, but obviously I haven't got an oven here, so I just need to utilise the equipment that I've got. Now, you can hear and start to smell that the natural oil in that skin is coming through, and what I want to do is just add a little bit of salt to this fish. I actually salted the skin. Put some salt on the skin before it went in.
Yeah, it's nice and crispy.
Exactly. It just sort of pulls out the oils and the moisture a little bit, and we're just waiting for the skin to get a nice toasted look to it. All right. Now, while that's ticking away, let's get out the celeriac mash. Flip that over. Gonna add a tiny bit of butter in there. Never go wrong with a bit of butter. But we're not in too much of a rush right now. And if you didn't want to use butter, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of olive oil. That butter's going to brown up beautifully. There's a nice texture on that. And this whole idea that consuming cholesterol or fats is linked to cardiovascular diseases, I think it's been completely debunked.
Yes.
And actually, it's your body, using processed foods, turning them into high levels of glucose, and then needing to store them as fat around the body. Now, if I just tell you what I've done with the celeriac mash quickly, I've pulled this out. I've drained the liquid out of the pot.
Okay.
Which you can keep. It tastes very strong of celeriac. You could use that for stock, for soups, and all sorts of other things. And there's my steamed, pressure-cooked mixture. Okay. And what I'm going to do is give that a quick mash. And it's very soft.
Oh, that's so easy.
Yeah. And that's the butter beans, the leeks, the nuts and the seeds. And what I like about having the nuts and the seeds in here, how about you sprinkle a bit of salt and pepper in there for me while we do that? Okay. Yes, please. A little bit of seasoning is always nice. Too. We can use the official taste test, I suppose. Now, again, if you were vegetarian making this mash, or vegan, you could add olive oil, just to give it a bit of fat. As we're not that way inclined, we're going to add some butter. Okay, it doesn't need a huge amount, a bit of butter in there. Just going to mash that through. That's it. Yeah.
And I suppose if you've made some of those flavoured oils to go in your fridge as well, if you wanted to, you can add a little bit of flavoured oil in there as well with a herb in it.
100%. Yeah. Or as a really lovely drizzle
Yes.
across the finished dish. Nice. You grab a fork here and give that a try for me. There you go.
Oh, that's lovely.
How's that taste? Good?
There's a real lovely mixture of flavours.
And textures as well.
Yes.
And it looks great as well, doesn't it? It's got that, you can see all these different foods in there. You could always put a bit of cheese across the top of that.
And if you like mashed potato, you are not going to miss out eating that.
You are not going to miss out eating that at all. It's really filling, really satisfying. Nice and brown, beautifully cooked. Look at that, absolutely lovely. So, nice bit of mixed vegetables on there. Bit of courgetti, sorry, on there with pesto. Now that could be a separate dish whereby you could just flake some salmon through there, which would be nice, wouldn't it?
And I guess if you cook up several pieces of salmon, you could flake that
exactly.
up, leave it cold in the fridge.
Sit it in the fridge, yeah.
You buy those packets in the supermarket of flaked salmon, don't you? And this is just, you can do it
just
yourself.
as good. And if you're really short on time, you can buy tins of wild caught Atlantic salmon as well, rather than going for the sort of very farmed fish. That's always another option. So you could just have a nice simple little salad.
Yeah.
Let's put a bit of this and then just add a couple of bits of fish in there as well.
Lovely, amazing flavour. So this is the courgetti, which has got some of the pesto on it. The salmon was just fried in some butter and absolutely delicious.
Good.
This one, gorgeous evening meal. We've got the celeriac mash here, a drizzle of the pesto on the side, which has been loosened a bit more with the olive oil, trying to escape. And that's lovely because it's got so many different flavours in it. You've got the nuts in there, you've got the celeriac in there, we've got the leeks in there. Brilliant flavour. And then again, we've added the courgetti as the vegetable on there with the salmon. We've got an option for lunch there, we've got an option for an evening meal, and all of this can be made in advance, and then, or bits of it can be made in advance, and you can pull the different bits together for the different meals.
It was all absolutely delicious, and I learnt so much while we were chatting as well. Ollie gives so much information whilst he's cooking, and his brain is just full of so much valuable information. So I hope you managed to pick that up as we were going through as well. I will link all of the tools that he used down in the description box, as well as the first part of the video in case you missed that as well. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe because there's going to be lots more cooking and health information coming in the future as well. Bye for now.